Mushrooms in Mario Kart are very helpful for taking shortcuts and overtaking other players, but what if using them was all you could do in the game? It's fair to say you wouldn't win any races, but could you at least complete every track? Today I'm going to find out. The rules here are pretty simple. The only button I can press is the item button. No accelerating, no braking, no drifting. I will try to complete one lap of each track, starting from before the finish line with 2 mushrooms and 20 coins for maximum speed. I found some tracks extremely easy to complete, so I'll tick those off immediately, but the first track in the game, Mario Bros Circuit, wasn't one of them. As I started out with this challenge, I immediately realised that stopping on item sets would be very helpful, as that let me use a mushroom but still carry 2 more to use later. When I did this on the first set of Mario Bros Circuit, I was hoping the extra mushrooms would be enough to reach the next item set, but on my first attempt I didn't quite cover enough distance. I did realise though that hitting coins would be quite helpful for a small extra boost in this challenge. To make it to the second set, I just needed to use my mushrooms further on the left at the first set so there was less distance to cover. I did have some trouble with the big turn afterwards, since just using the 2 mushrooms from the double item box was clearly not enough to get to the final set. So I had to stop on the second set at the perfect time to get the 3rd mushroom boost, which took me quite a few attempts. After I did it though, the rest of the track was super easy, especially thanks to the glider at the end. Crown City is a section track, so I just started from before the starting point and tried to complete the whole thing. The start of the track was fairly easy, but I got stuck on this long straightaway as I could only get this far at first. I tried sitting in front of a car in the hope that it would push me all the way to the item set, but I found out that wasn't a great idea. But then I thought of something much better. Since I'm doing this challenge in versus race mode, I knew there would at some point be a car that throws coins behind it, so I thought maybe the extra boosts I could get would be enough to get me to the item set. So I waited and waited and waited until eventually a coin car arrived. This plan worked perfectly. I made it quite far with only 1 mushroom used, waited for the car to overtake me again, then used my 2nd mushroom to get to the item set with ease. After that, I could get to the rooftop section with 1 mushroom left, but sadly, when I used this mushroom, it wasn't enough to reach the next boost ramp. This causes me to only have 1 mushroom after landing from the trophy, which is a problem because I can't then cover enough distance to reach the glider panel. So I had to try and figure out a way to get to this boost panel with 2 mushrooms left. The first thing I tried was to stop on the item set, but the gap is way too big to make it over without falling off. The next idea was to switch combo to Bowser on the real racer, since I thought maybe the extra speed it provided could be enough to make it possible. So I went back and did the start of the track again to make sure, then tried again to get to the boost ramp. I did get slightly closer, but it was still nowhere near enough. However, for some reason, if you land on the end of the rail after this boost ramp, you keep a lot more speed, and the coins help me preserve that speed to get all the way to the item set with a mushroom to spare. This gave me hope I might actually be able to make it, but unfortunately this was my best attempt, so tantalisingly close. Everything else I tried here also wouldn't work, so I had to rule out Crown City as impossible to complete. Whistle Stop Summit for the most part wasn't too tricky. The gaps between the item sets weren't small, but I managed to get to the final section without too much trouble. However, the ending wasn't as straightforward. The distance between the final item set and the finish line is too long, unless you stop on the left side of the straightaway, because then the train pushes you the rest of the way to complete the lap. On DK Spaceport I made quick progress in the beginning, with the bounce pads on section 2 being a big help. However, section 3 seemed at first like it was slightly too difficult to complete, since after many attempts I couldn't quite reach the next item set. Thankfully though, in this situation, the switch to Bowser on the real racer actually paid off, as I got the extra distance I needed to reach the item set. However, my setup for the next turn was really bad, so when my final mushroom boost ran out, I was nowhere near the next item set. Luckily, I realised there was a way to fix my alignment in situations like this. Rather than just going forward no matter what, I could instead use the mushrooms to go backwards, and then use the walls to turn back around and realign myself properly. After doing this, I managed to take the turn as tight as possible, which with the help of a coin was enough to reach the next item set. I did this same strategy for the rest of the track to get past every section, completing DK Spaceport only using mushrooms. Guy Bazaar wasn't actually too difficult to complete, but in doing so I found out something interesting. As I approached the final item set, I realised I didn't have enough speed to make it, so I tried to jump onto the boost ramp then back onto the track to make up for it. However, I failed this and fell off, but then I got the boost when landing before the glider. At first, I thought I must have just accidentally pressed A, but when I tested it, the exact same thing happened without doing anything with my controller. Nintendo must have added this to prevent slow glider from happening if you missed the boost, but in the recent update they removed slow glider from the game entirely. After the update happened, I went back to check and it's still a thing. I'm not sure if this happens anywhere else in the game, but it's pretty interesting to find out. Anyway, I didn't really consider this when making the rules of the challenge, but just for peace of mind, I completed it without the respawn by clipping the edge of the ramp to redirect myself back onto the track. DK Pass wasn't quite as interesting, as the first and second item set are so ridiculously far apart. As a result, I got absolutely nowhere near completing this track, so let's move on swiftly. Faraway Oasis has a river in the middle that carries me forward despite not pressing anything, which is also the case for Salty Salty Speedway and Cheap Cheap Falls, all three of which are possible as a result. Cheap Cheap Falls was the hardest of them though, since I struggled to cover enough distance to actually reach the start of the water current. However, this is a perfect example of coins helping me out, as the 3 extra boosts I got from them on this turn was just enough to cover the distance I needed. This water current took me straight through the double item box, making the rest of the track pretty simple to complete. Peach Beach has a very big gap between the final item set on section 1 and the first item set on section 2, and this is where I started to really appreciate how much the details of my movement matter in this challenge. I kept falling short of the item set at first, but as I did more attempts, I noticed the less harsh movements I did, the further I would make it. This fact, along with taking the turns tighter to cover less distance, got me far enough to reach the item set eventually. The next set is also very far away, but luckily I could just about reach these 2 boost panels to give me the speed I needed, and the rest of the track is pretty straightforward. Dandelion Depths was even more difficult than Peach Beach. The sets on either side of the huge left turn at the start are really far apart, and of course I had to turn my vehicle constantly to make progress. I had countless attempts at this, and after a while I was pretty convinced it wasn't possible, as an attempt I thought was perfect still wasn't enough to reach the set. However, eventually I realised that taking a direct line through the off-road on the left was the answer. I thought it would just slow me down way too much, but I was very wrong. It actually gave me a small boost, a very nice tactic to know about. Reaching the third item set was also tricky, but I managed it. Then at the end I had to rely on these signs to keep me on the track, since Bowser's handling made it very difficult to turn towards the finish line in time. Bones Burnout's final item set is extremely far away from the finish line, so I was not at all surprised when I got nowhere near completing the track at first. Despite this, I decided to still try with Bowser just to see how close I could make it, and in doing so I realised something. When my final mushroom boost ended, I was still in the lava, but I made it out before completely sinking. However, spinning out caused me to slide when I got back onto the road, preserving much more speed than I would have done normally. So I figured that if I could get these slides to happen from other pools of lava, then maybe I could reach the finish line. This attempt was what I thought would be my best, as the second lava pool I went into was the closest one to the end. Unfortunately, I could only roll as far as this, giving me little hope for any more to be possible. I decided to give it one more go though, and I'm so glad I did. After using a mushroom as I hit the double item box, I decided to fall off the track early so I could use this pool of lava to slide, saving both my mushrooms. I could then use one mushroom to reach the same lava pools I used beforehand. Then of course the extra mushroom was enough to get me across the finish line. Peach Stadium also has quite a big gap between the final item set and the finish line, but the experience of attempting all the tracks beforehand helped me cover the distance. I was now not afraid of going through the off-road thanks to Dandelion Depths, and the extra boost I got from it on this track was exactly what I needed for it to be possible. Finally, the second and third item sets on Rainbow Road are extremely far apart, but there are a couple of boost panels and a glider to help me out. I could reach the boost panels with one mushroom to spare, and used it after landing from the glider. As you can tell, this didn't get me far enough, but I knew it was worth doing more attempts. This is because I got a sudden slowdown from the final ramp after the glider, so I thought that maybe if I avoided that happening, more progress could be made. After many tries, it felt completely random whether this slowdown would happen or not, but when it didn't, I definitely noticed a difference. Unfortunately though, I still couldn't quite reach the item set. I got close, but it wasn't enough. So, Rainbow Road is the third and final track that is not possible with only mushrooms. If you want to see more videos like this, then be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.